Hello, welcome to the Mom series, The Misunderstanding of Multiplicity. My name is Maria. I hope everyone's doing well. Happy New Year's. I thought I would come out and just say hello to everyone. My channel doesn't really get much traffic anymore. As most of you know, I haven't been consistently talking about multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder or dissociative disorders. I usually just come out and make a video when there's something new in the media that hasn't really been covered. That when I say media, I mean the whole focus of my channel really was to look at mental health stigma and how the media perpetuates a lot of the myths by trying to actually destigmatize how they create storylines and report and put material out into the media, which further stigmatizes, demonizes, and quite frankly is pure lie. And a lot of it often is thought to be researched and medical fact, and it's not. None of it is fact. First of all, as said before, there is a medical trauma model that doctors developed to make criteria that would fit multiple personality years ago. I've always said trauma is trauma is trauma. And there are a lot of people that hang their hat on being given a diagnosis of DID, or at one time it was called MPD, and really saying that, well, they had a traumatic childhood or child abuse, or it was continual, or they were molested, or whatever happened to them caused them to create other selves to cope. And this is why they have disassociation in their life, or they were labeled with multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder. But it's not always that way. It's like, I would have to say, it's like telling somebody you have the flu and you're always going to have the flu. It's just not that way. There's so many myths and misconceptions that people believe. And a lot of times from other self-reporting or people that self-subscribe to a life of living their life with more than one, and they've never actually even gone into a therapeutic process to try to figure out what's wrong, because they already got it figured out in their head that they know what it is. They don't want to be told different. Okay, so there are so many different camps out here, and I just really encourage people to share their own unique experience. And now there's tons of people out here sharing their experiences, and no need for me to really come out and say much, other than when something's in the media. So the newest thing in the media now is Chance, and it's streamed on Hulu, and Lori, who used to be Dr. House, I can't think of his name. What was his name on House? Was it House? I seem to remember them calling him House. He plays a forensic neuropsychiatrist who really his career is kind of feeling washed up. He's kind of down in the dumps. He's kind of sick of everything. And his marriage is going down the tubes, going through a conflicting kind of home life. He's not getting along with his teenage daughter. So his role as a father and as a husband is just crashing in on him. And he's really disheartened by his profession, psychiatry. And along comes a woman who's intriguing, beautiful, and of course, she may or may not have multiple personality. There are dangerous aspects to her that lurk, and he is just so intrigued, and this kind of like lights his little fire for psychiatry again and his interest, and he just has to follow her and get involved in her life where there is abuse in her current situation. And what the good doctor looks at is, how did she get this way? And why is she staying? How are these dual personas? I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it. That was first season. How is that helping her to survive in the situation she's in now? So they play with the idea that she might be multiple, and mostly what the show has to do with is not that. She may not even be returning for a second season. The show is really going to be more about, from what I think they're just playing with it right now. They don't even know for certainty, but what the actors and actresses have said in all their interviews is that it's going to really be more about the doctor. And the doctor realizing unearthing all of these things about his own personality and what makes him tick and why he went into forensic psychology, and him being laid bare, raw, physically, psychologically naked to others, and how these clients coming into his life, how they all help each other by being exposed, and how he receives help from them and they receive help from him. And so there's going to be different situations, of course, that it's not a show about multiple personality. I've heard a lot in the multiple community of people writing and saying, oh, it would be really cool if that show was about multiple personality, because, you know, coming from somebody like you, Lori, it would be really, he would do it justice. True. A lot of people used to believe that that maybe he was multiple. Who knows? What I would say is, what he said in all of his interviews is that this show has a lot more heart about people needing people, and where the help comes in when you trust another person with your emotional baggage. So with what makes you tick and how you developed or whatever. So it's not going to be about really multiple personality, I don't think, but I don't know. They could change it up. Writers do that all the time. Number 2, Split. An A-lister director, producer, and some really A-lister stars. Not about multiple personality. They're going to try to package it under multiple, the same way Identity, Primal Fear. It's a horror sci-fi show. That's what it is. So horror sci-fi meets psychological drama thriller. So I will be talking more about it. I've gone ahead and gotten my Hulu thing updated, and I'm gone ahead and gotten some stuff on Split. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, I've heard people say they've seen the trailers to it and they're really worried about it. There comes a point in your life, I think, for me, and on New Year's it's really appropriate for me to just say, people that think wrongly about what you are, only you can allow them to continue to believe that by presenting as such. Because we really are the media. So when I came out here years ago and there were only 3 people talking about multiple personality or DID, we were all trying to get the misconceptions, the falsehoods out there. Number 1, it is not genetic. You cannot pass it down. I'm saying this for my own children. So you know for once and for all, you cannot pass it down. It could be learned behavior. Number 2, being around somebody who is multiple is not going to make you multiple. It's not like it's a contagious thing. Number 3, it more so works for the person to bring them health than disorder. Number 4, in psychiatry, in a therapeutic relationship, in the office, behind a closed door, where you are alone with your therapist, you are learning iatrogenically how to be multiple in the very treatment of how to get better. In the very treatment to get better, you are being disintegrated and taken apart. I'm challenging everyone that is multiple and has multiple personality from years ago, or dissociative identity disorder from who knows when, I am challenging you to hold yourself accountable for your emotions, to be present. I am asking you to be authentically honest about when the numbers started increasing in your group. Who was giving you permission? Who was suggesting to you you might be a different personality? You were acting a little different. Who gave you permission? Who told you it must get worse before it gets better? Who told you you were special because of it? Who told you you were so rare and unique and it was so and amazing? It's very ordinary. We are all made up of many, many aspects in this life. Many events, traumas, good, bad. We draw from everything. Every one of us are sponges. And it just gets very sad to see. And we don't stop creating as we grow up. As we grow older, we incorporate what we'd like from this and that and everything else. If I see a trait that, and I can say this and not be ashamed of it. I have a cousin that I always used to feel I was in competition with her because she was raising my kids while I was getting better, and I was always thought to be not okay. I started to look at her and try to be like her in certain ways, and I was like, when I realized it, I could have just said, oh, that's another personality, because I would have had permission to say it, believe me, and nobody would have questioned it, and I would have started to believe it. But I had to say to myself, wait a minute, no. I don't believe like she believes in that area. I like that she's cool like that, but not my thing. And I dialed it down and I said, that's not me. That's her. I think it's more of a clear definition of knowing yourself. Knowing this is my boundary. This is who I am. This is my physical makeup. This is my emotional makeup. This is what makes me me. This is what makes her her. I might like a few qualities of this person or that person. I might try to draw that into my personality. I might look at an aunt of mine with admiration and say, I'd like to be more like her in this way. And you fashion yourself. And in psychiatry, they call all these family people introjects if you end up with them in your personality. They call them introject alters. They're not. If you grow up with a mother, father, aunt, sister, grandmother, and you try to emulate some of the good qualities of her, does that make you be another personality when you're using those qualities? No. Be very careful when the numbers start growing when you're in therapy. Okay, make sure your doctor is being covered all the time by a psychiatrist who, I gotta tell you, in psychiatry, whatever you say it is, they're gonna go, yeah. They're gonna say, here, take a pill. And go away and come back later and take a pill. A lot of therapists diagnosed multiple personality in the 80s, all the way through to the early 90s. And then when the lawsuits started rolling in, they stopped talking about it. And they changed the name to DID to make it go away. And to get a whole bunch of broadening labels under dissociative disorders into the pool, under that whole umbrella. And they did. And now you see DID awareness groups with umbrellas that say DID, and they've got like post-traumatic stress here, complex post-traumatic stress, derealization, depersonalization, and then DID. It really all comes back to how do we adjust to change in our life, and change that hurts, and loss and grief and violence and trauma, medical changes, physical pain, emotional pain. How do we adjust to it? Disassociating is a coping mechanism, which can be very good. It can be eating, it can be running, marathon running, exercising a lot. It can be passionate lovemaking and or just good old-fashioned sex for sex. It can be baking, cooking, a hobby, painting, crocheting, knitting, watching one movie after another. Anything you do to distract your brain is a healthy form of disassociation. Things that become automatic for us, like driving home on the expressway or our route home, can become a dissociative fugue state because we don't really remember anymore because that's normal. You've got it on auto road, so you just go. There's so much more myth and misconception out there, and on this New Year's, all I really want to say is enough. It really is enough. There's only so much that you can blame on MPD DID. Okay? There's only so much you can blame on a trauma that happened to you. There's only so much I can blame on a trauma that happened to me. How those traumas get triggered back in the now and pop up, I really don't know. But the answer is, it does. So the answer is to have the tools when we get triggered by things. And life is one big trigger. You can't identify what every trigger is and try to hide from it. And that's what I love about Creature of Habit, A Journey by Trudy Chase and the Troops. What the book they wrote after Rabbit House is, after they had gone through all their therapy for MPD back in the day, after they went on all the talk show circuit, after they went on everything, and we tried to go back to life altogether, it wasn't the multiplicity that was getting in their way. Not at all. It was post-traumatic stress. It was being afraid. It was being ashamed. It was being scared. It was being doubtful of everything. It was being untrusting. It was doing the familiar because it was safe. It was having rigid rules because they might get hurt if they did something different. It was an unwillingness to live unless they knew with every move what was going to happen. They were traumatized. That really is what you're left with to cope with. So if you can cope with and nobody knows what a trauma looks like to one person and another. We would think if you grew up in a violent home and your parents were always fighting, that would be trauma. Sure, but at some point it would become normal. Maybe you grew up with a sick parent and you saw them in pain, and maybe you saw what you shouldn't have seen, heard what you shouldn't have heard. One might think a kid shouldn't hear that, shouldn't know that, but after a while it would be just normal because they adjust. People adjust. And one person might have a really hard time getting over certain things, and another person, it kind of just goes off their shoulder. Nobody knows what the definition of trauma is in everyone's brain. It's different for everyone. So the experience is unique, but the challenge I give people this year is don't fall in love with your label. Don't romanticize it. It will come back to bite you in the butt. It is not a generous, forgiving lover. It is not. It is a spiteful lover. Go out, meet people, get back in life. Stay away from all the books that constantly explain why you are the way you are. You don't have to have a shelf of every kind of psychology book. Now, a lot of times I will read up on psychology to try to see what's new in, I call it multiple land at this point. What are they conjuring up out there now? What are they coming up with to make money? Because it is all profitable. Somebody is profiting. If somebody's suffering, somebody else is profiting from it. Okay? So when you take the chains off and say, I'm not going to keep going to this person for opinion or whatever, and keep exposing my suffering, an amazing thing starts to happen. Sometimes you really do start to get better. So I've heard people say, oh God, I wish they would train doctors more in disassociation and trauma. Oh God, no. All the heightened awareness and special lobbying just prolongs your illness, the stigma, the misconceptions, and the myths in the media, in psychiatry, and in the self-reporting. So if you're out here doing videos to take away the misconceptions, the myths, the legends, the folklore, whatever, regarding multiplicity also, and you joined the camps now and you want to be awareness, you want to show awareness, then realize you're the media. So what you're presenting every day is telling your story. So if you come out here and you show 5 or 6 really angry altars and 3 or 4 little children that just are sweet, but they're totally lost and clueless, or somebody who's stuck and traumatized and can't function, what do you think the world is seeing? And is that really how it is? Is that really how it is? If it is, how come you can get up in the morning and go to work? How come you can turn it on and turn it off? There are people out here that are role-playing. Be aware of that. There are people that are truly multiple, and it is subtle. It is so very subtle. And then there are people that are role-playing. If you're out here playing show and tell, you're not helping the cause. You're not. Now, I would look at why you feel the need to go there as more of the problem than if you were multiple or you weren't. So this new year, I just really wanted to come out here and make a real video and talk about, yeah, there's stuff in the media, but we are the media. You, me. So, in our little group of friends and family, it's important to just be real with them. Just be real. And if you have people in your life that they're perpetuating the myth because it makes them feel better, maybe, or maybe it excuses them for something, get real with them and tell them to stop it, or just don't hang out with them. I mean, I hate to say that because I think that everybody should hang out with everybody, but, you got to do what's healthy. Stay away from therapists, though, that isolate you from your family, your church, your friends, your job. Like, every time you complain about something, they're like, well, maybe you ought to get a new job. Well, maybe you ought to get a new apartment. Well, maybe you ought to not be around that person. Well, maybe you ought to... That's not the answer. Okay? And depend more on me. Let's increase visits until we get past this and figure it out. And in the meanwhile, why don't you look for a new job? And in the meanwhile, don't go to that church. Look for a new church. And in the meanwhile, don't go to your families for the holiday. Go somewhere else. What the hell kind of... Think about that. Think. That is cult behavior. That's what that is. Cult behavior. Okay? When somebody isolates you or says you don't need them, you don't need that church, you don't need that school, you don't need that job, you don't need that family, you don't need that for a friend, and maybe it's time to just stop talking to them. Okay? So, be healthy this year. Take the challenge to be as authentically, emotionally honest and accountable for your emotions and not give them over to what you think maybe another alter person, aspect, part, or what I call people carry as their assignment to be angry or to be truthful or to be revengeful or to be bitter or to be a bitch or to be sensual or to be innocent and wide-eyed and childlike. Why don't we all just take the challenge to start being us? Okay? And honoring those that you're with, but not assigning what's yours onto that. And have a beautiful, blessed year. Merry Christmas to everyone that I missed. Happy Yule. And happy Thanksgiving. Happy Kwanzaa coming up. And happy Hanukkah to everyone. Take care. I really do love you all. I miss the multiple community. I cannot keep talking about it. I'll be 58 in May, and multiplicity has not been the issue for so long that I just can't. I'm stuck with the fallout from it, but it's not the issue of my everyday life that makes any problem. It is the stigma. It is the increased heightened awareness and the things that people think that are wrong, and things that people are told that are untrue. So work on keeping it true. And I've got another channel called Flower Species where I'm doing a lot of crochet, knitting, tatting, and political views, poetry, spoken poetry, guitar, cooking, baking videos. So I'm trying to keep it separate now. So you guys, if you want to go to Flower Species, you'll see my thoughts on whatever, DIYs, TV shows, the entertainment industry, Illuminati, whatever I want to feel like talk about. I really want to keep this all about multiplicity in the media and fun crafts and baking and everything else over at Flower Species. And there will be some news too, like current citizen news. Citizen journalism will be on that channel also, from me, and commentary. And I hope you all have a really blessed New Year's, and take care of you. Okay, bye-bye.